Yo, what is good, everybody? It is your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What Ifs, whatever you want to call me, and I'm back. This is a brand new What If. What if Deku was a pro wrestler? Now, this is kind of like a remake of an old What If I did, but, you know, something along those lines. But I hope you guys still enjoy. Hope you guys enjoy the video. If you do, please leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. Check the links in the description for the Spotify, the Discord, and the membership if you want to check those out as well. And yeah, I don't really want to waste much more of your time, and I want to get right into it, so let's get it. Izuku Midoriya's life is a lot different than anyone else's, and the reason why is because he was never given a quirk. He was actually full-on quirkless. So when at a young age he realized that the chances of him being a hero, well, they're pretty damn low. And yeah, that would mess up some kids, that would mess up the mind of others, but when he learned about this, when he figured this out, one day he would realize that maybe he doesn't want to be a hero. Maybe he doesn't want to be the hero that people are all talking about. Maybe he doesn't want to be the run-of-the-mill typical hero that everybody says that everybody wants to be. And he realizes there's so much more for him to do outside of just being that quote-unquote hero. So what does he do? Well, he starts looking at other ways to make money, other ways to do things, and other ways to get a grasp on the situation. But eventually, he would see something on the screen. On his TV, he would see pro wrestling, professional entertainment wrestling. And this is when he would realize that this might be exactly what he wants to do. He starts going to these little camps, like, of these various things for pro wrestlers, and he is a very quick study. He starts learning things at a rapid rate. At such a young age, Izuku is already like a master of so many different arts of the professional wrestling game, and so much so that he starts to fall in love with it. I mean, at a young age, he's legitimately putting on shows from the age of around 10 to 12. He's putting on full-on shows, showing off what he can do, and being this kind of crazy athlete that everybody, or really nobody, realized that he could potentially be. And he starts putting on a show with various people, putting on a show that everybody starts being excited. And this is the first time Izuku felt like he was normal, like he was some normal guy, that he could do something that could make not only people happy, but also give himself notoriety. And honestly, this is the first time he's felt like this ever. The first time he's ever felt like he belonged somewhere, that he belonged in this place. And he realized that this right here, being a wrestler, is where he belongs truly. And in doing so, in making himself feel like this, in making himself realize this, well, this is when his quirk would start to arrive. Because one day, when he's around 13 years old, he's doing a match with one of his good buddies that he met on the wrestling scene. And as the crowd would get louder, the crowd would get, more and more excited, Izuku can feel this rush of energy. The normal fatigue he would feel is no longer there, but is to the extent of a different version of that said fatigue. He is like no longer tired. He feels way stronger. He feels way more active, and he starts doing things and starts making moves that the other wrestler can't even keep up with. The other wrestler's thinking, whoa, like, where did this all come from? Like, I've never seen you do these things at all. So Izuku pulls it back a little bit and starts slowing down. But the other wrestler, he tells him, no, don't slow down. Don't slow down. Let's put you over. Let's make sure that these people know that you're the real effing deal. And it starts to really unfold, where Izuku starts to go on an absolute spree, showing off some of the most amazing moves you could possibly see as the crowd would chant his name, and as the voices would get louder. Everything he does would have more impact, from flips off the rope to spine busters to anything, from DDTs and anything you can think of. Izuku Midoriya gives it all. Izuku Midoriya shows everything and everyone what he could really freaking do. And every movement is just a different level. Every time he lands a blow, the crowd would erupt into like a frenzy, and Izuku seemingly would get stronger, faster, better, more entertaining, everything. And eventually the match would end with that beautiful 1, 2, 3, and Izuku Midoriya would have his name chanting all the way up the rafters, and everybody would now know the name of Izuku Midoriya, and everybody would know that he is the professional wrestler of Japan. And with all this happening, with everything going on, Izuku starts realizing, like, wow, like, this feels great, this feels amazing, and who cares about being a hero when I could do this, when I can make people happy, when I can make people feel alive. But then everything that he has created, all the moves, everything that he does, it starts to slow down more and more and more and more, because the idea of being a professional wrestler, I mean, to the people that are watching, they don't really find it that entertaining anymore. They believe that Izuku Midoriya, he should go out there and be a hero, save lives, and be the professional that he is. Bring pro wrestling to the hero circuit and do something that nobody else has really done. And Izuku hears this, and he hears this all the way until he's around 15 years old. And he realizes that this opportunity, whatever came and whatever showed up in front of him, this might be his chance, his true chance to get out there and be a hero. The hero he wanted to be when he was younger, but also the hero that everybody else would love to be since they were younger. Izuku Midoriya is given an opportunity, and he realizes that he should not waste it. And he doesn't. He gets his chance, and he refuses to let go of it. And, well, let's just say his kind of idea and his back and forth with himself about being a hero would come to a close when he would face off with a sludge villain. Yes, a villain that would come out of nowhere attacking him. Izuku would have the strength to legitimately avoid and also start beating on this kind of liquidy sludge villain, and you would think, oh, there's no chance he can hit him, but Izuku starts actually landing blows. It seems like he's able to actually get a hold of the creature that the sludge villain is, and eventually All Might would show up, punch the sludge villain, and obliterate it into little tiny bits. And Izuku would talk to All Might, asking him various questions and asking him, should he become a hero? Can he become a hero? And will he be able to? And let's just say it's pretty obvious that All Might basically gives him the go-ahead of like, yeah, no, kid, like, you have all the capabilities in the world. You just have to figure out what exactly your powers are, what you can truly do, and what you are truly capable of doing. And that's when Izuku starts truly putting his best foot forward with kind of learning about as much as he possibly can, learning about kind of what his quirk does, because he is now a late bloomer from what his, the quirk he got and stuff like that. And he starts learning that his quirk has a lot to do with just people being around him, people chanting for him, and really playing that persona. The more and more he kind of dives into that idea of entertainment, the better and better his quirk will get. The stronger and the more things will start to progress. And Izuku realizes that this is something he has to hold on to, something he needs to realize that he needs to basically hold on to as hard as possible. And he thanks All Might for the advice, thanks him for, whatever is going on. And Izuku starts training, starts pushing himself forward, and starts really scheming out so many different ideas on what he could possibly do as a hero, what he could possibly do in various different directions and various different ideas. And Izuku starts planning out his kind of costume, starts planning out his various moves and anything he can do, and also how he wants to approach being the hero or being a face, aka being the good guy. And that's something that Izuku wants to think about as well. But he needs to figure out also how he's going to pass this UA entrance exam. And when he heads into, after 10 months of training, that UA entrance exam, the written portion isn't too difficult. I mean, he studied or tried to study as much as possible. But the real thing is the practical. How is he going to do in the practical portion of this exam? Is he going to excel? Is he going to fail? Is he going to, be forced to slow down and, get pushed back or whatever? And he tries his absolute hardest to kind of push himself forward and also just get as much as he possibly can done in this exam. Having to destroy robots, it seems like such a difficult thing, but even Izuku doesn't understand his own kind of strength. And with the teachers above watching and commenting on various people, this in turn allows Izuku to kind of channel that type of commotion, even though it's not a lot, but that type of commotion into power, into strength, into ability, and he starts absolutely being a high flyer off the top of buildings, destroying robots with cross bodies and drop kicks and so on and so forth, even using, various other techniques that he has learned to just punch his way through various robots and doing his absolute best. But the thing is when that 0-point robot shows up, he doesn't have much of a choice but to kind of run away, right? To take off, because at the end of the day, this is a pretty giant robot. This robot itself is ridiculously big and ridiculously powerful in its own right, and he doesn't have a way to just punch his way through it and obliterate it. And what he does do though is he grabs up a girl that is obviously trapped under rubble and does his best to save her, grabbing her and basically running with her on his shoulders and just taking off as quick as possible, while obviously she is telling him be careful, blah blah blah, and Izuku is out of there as the 0-point robot would eventually turn off, being that the entrance exam is now officially over. And Izuku, well, it's all a waiting game now. He leaves, yes, he does get some people, thanking him and stuff like that. And of course, the positive, affirmations and all that stuff definitely helps him get stronger and stronger, something that he holds near and dear to him. But it is not a ton, right? Everything that is in the moment makes him the strongest that he possibly can be. But for now, every little bit definitely helps as his strength continues to push up and up and up. And after some waiting, he finally gets a letter from UA telling him that he actually got into Class 1A, but he isn't the #1 student or anything like that. He is in the top 5, being the 4th best student in the entrance exam. He's very happy about, and very intrigued about, and he wonders who is the #1. And then when he gets there that day, he realizes that there's only one person that he knows would even have that #1 spot, and that has to be Bakugo. And that would all be confirmed when Aizawa would walk in, tell them all to shut up, and be ready for a quirk assessment test. And when he puts Bakugo on the front, kind of the front of everybody, and tells them, let's see how the #1 student throws this ball as far as he can. And basically he does just that. Izuku is basically confirming in his head that Bakugo will always be the guy he needs to be, always be the guy that he'll be chasing. And Izuku now understands that this guy Bakugo, he's never been an amazing person, and frankly, maybe he'll never be, but at least he's a hero, and at least he's, somewhat tolerable to an extent. But Izuku knows that this guy Bakugo, I mean, he is something else, and he's something different. But an annoyance and somebody to push him forward, at least he can accept that to an extent. But with that said, he watches Bakugo throw the ball as far as he can, and Izuku would get an opportunity himself to do it as well. But he kind of tries to hype it all up, tries to walk up there, hype it all up. And Aizawa, let's just be honest, Aizawa doesn't like this. Honestly, he would get really upset and just annoyed by this. He'd be like, dude, Like, shut up and just throw the ball. But Izuku would be trying to hype it up so that these other people would start, getting a little rowdy, getting, cheering a little bit, getting a little loud. But with Aizawa shutting it down, his strength is a little bit limited, and he's able to throw the ball pretty damn far. Don't get me wrong. He is of a pretty good stature. He's pretty damn strong already. But it doesn't go as far as Bakugo's. And this right here would piss him off. He'd be annoyed by this. And he would even tell Aizawa, like, he can throw the ball even further if they all cheered him. They all cheered his name. They all did this and that. And Aizawa would tell him that he doesn't care. That what does he think this is? Some sort of wrestling match? Does he think this is some comedy skit? What does he think this is? Because this is real life. Lives are on the line, and they are there to save people. And Izuku just stops talking, realizing that Aizawa's head, wherever he's thinking, just won't understand the idea of professional wrestling, and won't understand the idea that this is a part of it. This is a part of him being a hero. The chanting, the cheering, everything. He is the perfect wrestler, but he also may just be the perfect hero, because when people start chanting his name, everything becomes so much easier. But Izuku tries his best throughout the rest of this quirk assessment, pushing himself, trying to get better, trying to get stronger, and everything and all the above. And eventually, he would honestly do pretty well. Like, he wouldn't get anywhere near the bottom of the list. He's still a pretty freak of nature. Like, he's pretty strong. So him getting last place is definitely out of the conversation. Like, he's not going to get last place. There's just no way. But still, this entire kind of thing that happened with the quirk assessment and stuff like that definitely didn't have Aizawa on, a good side in terms of Izuku actually being on Aizawa's good side. And it's mostly because of the fact that Aizawa doesn't like the idea that some of these so-called heroes or students, they're a little bit more of what he can handle, right? They think they're better than everyone, and that's kind of the way he's looking at Izuku, at least for the moment. He's thinking, oh, this kid thinks he's just better than everyone, right? He thinks he's cooler, he thinks he's better, he thinks he's faster, he thinks he's stronger. He thinks that he doesn't need to be here, he doesn't need to be around us, blah, blah, blah. He can do what he wants. But that's not what Izuku really is all about. Izuku's trying to make the most of what he can do, make the most of what his capabilities are, and that's kind of where his head has always been. But at the same time, he is kind of looked at as a pseudo celebrity. People started actually realizing who he was, and Aizawa knows as well, being that he is a professional wrestler and he has been for the majority of his life. And the fact is, he has gained quite a bit of popularity as he got older, and that popularity he believes is getting to his head. But Izuku isn't actually trying to gain any more popularity by being here. He wants to just do the right thing. He wants to be a good person, and he wants to help as many people as he possibly can, and that's what he's doing. That's what he's trying to do. And the thing is, he's gonna have to somehow prove that to Aizawa, to make sure that, people don't just think he's just here for the sole purpose of, looking cool or being cool or, getting popularity and stuff like that. And Izuku would continue that idea and try to prove himself over and over again, especially when we go to the Heroes versus Villains training, where he takes on Bakugo once again, but this time around, it's in a different type of situation where he has to try and touch a bomb, right? Him being on the hero side with Ochako Araka makes it so that they have to stop a bomb, and they have 5 minutes to do so. And the main conflict that occurs is him facing off with Bakugo. He takes on Bakugo, and they go head first at each other, and the clash is pretty memorable, especially for everyone that's watching. But the main goal is to capture the bomb, and Izuku is trying his best to put him and also Ochako in a space where they could actually, get to the bomb and stuff like that. But Bakugo is relentless, so Izuku has to really focus his attention on Bakugo. And as he's doing this, as he's fighting Bakugo, they're fighting at a pretty decent pace and pretty even in terms of their strength, at least for now, especially when everybody is watching. Everybody starts talking about Izuku, saying, wow, this is really cool, like the way he fights, all this, and yada, 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 talking about just everything that Izuku is doing. And as this is happening, Izuku begins to get into that flow state once again, getting stronger, getting faster, getting more capable. Every single thing you can think of, that is what's happening with Izuku. Izuku starts getting way better, like way better than Bakugo. And as he does get way better than Bakugo, we then see that Izuku is able to knock him out pretty quickly, getting him on the ground, and then doing something he didn't know he could do. Something takes over him, and it makes him think he needs to pin him, right? 1, 2, 3. That's what he needs to do. And as he does this, as he pins him, and as he puts his shoulders on the ground, in his head, he can hear 1, 2, 3. And out of nowhere, Bakugo would be stuck in the ground, unable to move at all. He's been pinned, essentially losing the fight and unable to move. And this would shock Izuku, thinking, wow, I didn't know I could even do that, right? I didn't even know that was a thing. And it's making him realize that growing up in a pro wrestling environment has changed so much about him and has granted him a quirk that is so different than anything he's ever thought of in the first place. And as this happens, as this occurs, he heads upstairs, and eventually they would capture the bomb, him and Ochako together, defeating Tenya Ida, and All Might would give him all the flowers in the world for his capabilities. And after giving him his flowers, saying that they did good, obviously the other students would go ahead and do theirs as well, or their training session as well. And All Might, after class, would make it known. Like, he would want to go out and he would tell Aizawa that this kid has all the potential in the world. You may not like the way he acts, the way he approaches things, but it's not because he's not taking things seriously. He's still figuring out his own powers, his own quirk, and his own capabilities. So you gotta give him a chance. Gotta give him a fair kind of chance at really putting himself out there and really building himself up. And Aizawa says, like, he's always going to give the kid a chance. He doesn't have to like the way he approaches things, and he doesn't have to agree with the way he approaches things. And this is exactly what's the truth about, Izuku and stuff like that. But of course, Aizawa's gonna give him that chance no matter what. I mean, he treats everybody for the most part equally, but he's gonna give him a hard time about that. Like, he's not gonna like a kid that seeks attention, even if it's beneficial for the powers that he holds. Like, that's stupid. In which Aizawa obviously would try to keep the kid in line for the most part, but this would eventually lead us to the USJ, the very next kind of training facility or rescue training facility that these students are going to work with, train with, and get a hold of. Now, with that all being said, they do have quite a bit to do and quite a bit to learn, but all that learning would come to a stop when the League of Villains would come surging in. The League of Villains would overrun the entirety of the place, so much so that Izuku and a couple others would be sent to a specific location, being that he is sent to a ship or like kind of like a cruise of some sort in the middle of a lake, or a boat of some sort in the middle of a lake. And being that they are stuck there, like literally stuck there, they have to figure out what they got to do, especially with the villains that are beneath them. And which Izuku kind of tries to think about various ways to approach things and how they want to do this. But Izuku kind of eventually comes to the conclusion that it might be best if they just try their best to leap across the area and then kind of, hope that they can reach the edge of it and get out of here. Now, this is something that they're not sure if they can do, and even Asui is bringing this up, like, are you sure we're going to be able to do that? In which Izuku says, no, like, not at all. I'm not sure at all about it, but if you guys, bring positive energy towards me, like legitimately cheer me on and stuff, I might be able to clear this gap no matter what. In which they're like, that's the most weird thing I've ever heard in my life, but if it's going to get us out of here and not dead, we should probably try it. Which that's exactly what they do. They start chanting his name, stuff like that, and eventually he actually gets enough strength to where they can clear enough area where him, Asui, and Mineta are able to clear the entirety of the water so they can actually get out and go to somewhat safety. But the thing is, Izuku is currently looking at and watching as Aizawa is getting attacked, and he's clashing and fighting, and eventually he defeats all these villains, but he then has a Nomu, a giant creature, already attacking him once again. And Izuku, all he can think about is how is he going to help? That he should somehow help, but he doesn't know. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know if he can actually truly do something. He doesn't know if he can protect anybody, help anyone, or really do a single thing about this giant creature. But he thinks about something, and he looks at Asui and Mineta, and he rushes them up the stairs, and he tells them that anybody who's safe, anybody who's at a good distance, they need to start cheering, chanting, and doing anything they possibly can in the favor of him. Chanting his name, shouting for him, saying that it's awesome, it's this, it's that. Any chance they can think of, they need to do it, and he's being dead serious. In which Asui nods her head and says, she got it. She 100% she understands. She'll get the job done. She runs over there with Mineta, and as this begins to happen, as all the students are confused, like, what the hell are you talking about? We're not going to do that. That's so stupid. Eventually, they realize that it might have a little bit of method to the madness, and they start chanting Izuku's name. And as Aizawa was about to get square punched in the face by the Nomu, Izuku would jump out of nowhere, blocking the damage, blocking the attack, and, well, the Nomu would be in shock, or at least the villains would be in shock at the fact that the Nomu didn't even put a scratch on Izuku, at least not yet. Izuku starts going blow for blow with this Nomu, going back and forth, and Izuku brings out all the stops. He tries everything from your DDTs to suplexes to anything, your spine busters, anything that you could possibly think of. He's trying everything. He even goes up on top of a large area and jumps off of it with a swanton bomb. He's putting his body on the line, and he's doing everything in his possible strength to take this thing down, take this monstrosity down, and he wants to do it so that nobody else has to worry. Nobody else can be in the fray, and nobody else can get hurt. And Izuku, I mean, he is taking it to this Nomu, and he's stalling him out as much as possible, even leading to Aizawa being able to kind of fend off for himself, helping with Shigaraki and Kurogiri, so that when the arrival of All Might happens, Izuku and All Might team up, so they go head-to-head as a duo, as a tag team against the Nomu, making even All Might stronger in this sense, and they both take down the Nomu a lot quicker than normal. And with the help of Aizawa and some other students, Shigaraki would also be taken down. In a last-ditch effort, though, Kurogiri tries to get everybody out of there, the Nomu, Shigaraki, and himself, but he's unable to do so, with Bakugo following up quickly, and it seems like the chants themselves are making things a lot more difficult to even handle, a lot more difficult to even fathom. And it's weird because he doesn't understand why. He doesn't understand why his powers are being blocked in a weird way. His strengths, his weaknesses, everything is being unveiled. And it seems like the chants, everybody who's cheering on Izuku, everybody's cheering on the entirety of this fight, it seems to be affecting him. And it seems to be changing the feats of the battlefield. And that's exactly what Izuku realizes, or when he realizes that everything is different now. That Izuku Midoriya, he's no longer a pro wrestler. Well, he is a pro wrestler, but he's no longer just a pro wrestler. He is on his way to being a pro hero. And with one final attack, one final swanton, one final blow, he puts the Nomu in a pin, and he counts, and he can hear the crowd count as well. 1, 2, 3, and the Nomu is captured entirely, unable to move, and he does the same for Shigaraki and Kurogiri and those as well. Pins all galore, and they are captured, unable to move, and as heroes come in surging, and heroes come in capturing everybody, it seems like everybody is swooped up, and the League of Villains are put to rest, at least for the moment. Because we know that it's never going to end as long as they're still kind of focused and ready and trying to push to that next step. And at the end of the day, Shigaraki makes it very clear that even though he'll be behind bars, it doesn't mean that it's over just yet. And he refuses to give up that easily. In which, of course, the heroes take him away and they're like, yeah. That's what every freaking villain says. Whatever you got to say. But as this is being told, as this is being said, All For One would show his face. Portals would open up beneath Shigaraki and Kurogiri, dropping him underneath. The heroes would try to stop this, but the portals would close, and All For One would show his face, telling them that they will be next. That soon, everything in this world, everything from Japan and on, will be his to conquer, and the villains, they will prevail. And he tells them all that this little road bump means nothing, because he's already foreseen it all. Because that right there is not a prediction, it's a spoiler, in which everybody would be in shock to see All For One standing in front of them, but he would leave. All the other villains would be captured, but Shigaraki and Kurogiri would be with All For One, and it seems like that is not the last of them they will be seeing, but Izuku feels that he is beyond ready for another encounter with them. And there's something about the feeling of the cheering people, the fans alike, that makes his blood pump and it makes him feel like he's on top of the world, like he can jump from a giant cage and survive. But all he's thinking about is that the next time he sees those people, he's going to shut them down for good. But as a student of UA, he has a lot to worry about. And that also includes the eventual UA Sports Festival that he's going to get into. But that is for the next part, which will most likely be the final part. I'll probably just do a longer part for that last part, and we'll talk about everything. But it's either going to be part 2 of 2 is next part, or it's going to be where we'll do an actual part 3 or whatever, part 2, part 3. But most likely that next part will be last part. So if you guys enjoy, please show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below. All that good stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed part 1 of 2 of What If Deku Was a Pro Wrestler. And if you did enjoy, yeah, show some love, like I said. And yeah, that's all I got to say. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.